The sun hung low over Kansas City, casting a warm glow on the bustling river market. I wandered through the vibrant stalls, inhaling the rich aromas of fresh produce and spices that filled the air. The laughter of vendors mingled with the chatter of families enjoying the day. Yet, amidst this lively atmosphere, a weight pressed heavily on my chest. My marriage felt like a series of routines, predictable and monotonous. I glanced at my reflection in a nearby shop window. The woman staring back wore a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I had been married for over 20 years, and while there were moments of joy, they often felt overshadowed by an overwhelming sense of discontent. My husband, Tom, was a good man, a dependable provider, but our conversations had dwindled to logistics and plans for the week ahead. The spark we once shared seemed to flicker out long ago. As I strolled past the stalls, my mind wandered to our last family dinner. Tom had been excitedly discussing his upcoming business trip, oblivious to my distant gaze. I could hardly muster enthusiasm for his plans. Instead, I felt trapped in a life that lacked passion or connection. The thought gnawed at me as I picked up a jar of homemade barbecue sauce from a local vendor. "Try it on ribs," he suggested with a grin. "Sure," I replied absently, handing him cash while my thoughts drifted elsewhere. Later that evening, as Tom prepared for his trip, I found myself alone in our home, a space filled with memories yet suffocating in its familiarity. The walls echoed with laughter from years past but now stood silent, amplifying my solitude. I settled into the couch, flipping through channels aimlessly until an unexpected knock broke through my reverie. It was my father-in-law, Harold, Tom's father, standing at the door with his usual warm smile. He had always been easy to talk to. His presence brought an air of comfort that had been missing from my life lately. "Thought I'd drop by," he said cheerfully, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "Hi Harold," I replied, forcing a smile as he settled into an armchair across from me. We exchanged small talk about mundane topics, the weather and local events, as if nothing lay beneath the surface of our casual conversation. Yet as we spoke, something shifted in me. Each word he uttered stirred feelings I hadn't allowed myself to acknowledge before. "What do you think about the festival this weekend?" he asked suddenly. I shrugged lightly but felt a flutter in my stomach at the thought of being surrounded by people again, an escape from the confinement of daily life. "It could be fun," I replied hesitantly. "Let's go together then," he suggested with an enthusiasm that caught me off guard. I hesitated for just a moment before nodding in agreement. The prospect excited me more than it should have. It felt like stepping into uncharted territory, a chance to break free from routine and rediscover something lost within myself. As we made plans for Saturday evening, an unbidden thought crept into my mind. Was it wrong to feel the spark? It was merely companionship, nothing more than friendship between two adults seeking connection amid their own loneliness. Yet as we discussed logistics and what time would work best for both of us, I couldn't shake off the feeling that this was more than just an innocent outing. The festival arrived under clear skies filled with laughter and music echoing through the streets. The smell of barbecue wafted through the air as families gathered around food trucks adorned with colorful banners. My heart raced at the thought of spending time with Harold outside our usual family gatherings. It felt exhilarating yet terrifying all at once. We navigated through crowds together. His presence beside me brought warmth and comfort amidst strangers bustling around us. Conversations flowed easily between us as we sampled different foods and enjoyed live performances on stage. Laughter bubbled up unexpectedly when Harold recounted stories from his youth. Each tale drew me closer into his world, a world far removed from my own mundane existence. But then came that moment, the lingering glance across a crowded street as fireworks erupted overhead. My heart skipped a beat when our eyes locked for just a second longer than necessary. In that instant, everything shifted. Emotions surged within me like waves crashing against shorelines, uninvited yet undeniable. "What was that?" I wondered silently as we continued walking side by side amidst cheers and applause surrounding us. Harold turned slightly toward me, then asked casually if I'd enjoyed myself so far, yet beneath his words lay unspoken tension simmering beneath our easy camaraderie, a tension that left me questioning everything about this newfound connection forming between us. As we made our way back home later that night under dim streetlights casting shadows across empty sidewalks, doubt crept into my thoughts like fog rolling in over water. Could this really be happening? Was it possible to seek solace outside one's marriage without crossing boundaries? The answer eluded me just as quickly as those fireworks faded away behind us, leaving only echoes resonating within my heart long after they disappeared from sight entirely. Returning home felt surreal. Stepping back into familiar surroundings only amplified those emotions swirling inside me. The weight of secrets pressing heavily against my chest now more palpable than ever before since meeting Harold tonight at the festival where everything changed forevermore. The evening air hung thick with unspoken words as I entered the house, the familiar creaks of the floorboards echoing the turmoil inside me. Shadows danced in the corners of my mind, memories of Harold's gaze lingering like a haunting melody. I moved through the dimly lit rooms, each step heavy with the weight of my thoughts. My husband was away for the weekend, leaving me alone with my confusion and longing. Dinner was a solitary affair. I prepared a simple meal, but my mind wandered to Harold. The way he looked at me that night, filled with understanding and warmth, ignited something deep within, a flicker of hope amidst the mundane. I couldn't shake off the feeling that he saw me in ways my husband no longer did. As I sat at the dining table, fork poised above a plate of overcooked pasta, I caught sight of our wedding photo hanging on the wall. The smiles frozen in time felt like ghosts from a distant past. The love we once shared had dulled into routine, evenings spent in silence were now commonplace. My heart raced as I recalled Harold's laughter mingling with mine at the festival. The connection we shared was undeniable. I set down my fork and decided to take a walk to clear my head. The streets were quiet, illuminated by street lamps casting warm pools of light on the pavement. Kansas City had a charm all its own at night. Soft sounds of distant laughter and faint music floated through the air from nearby bars and restaurants. Each step felt liberating yet burdensome as I wrestled with conflicting emotions. I found myself drawn to a small bar nestled between two larger establishments. The aroma of barbecue wafted out as patrons spilled onto the sidewalk, their laughter ringing out like music against the backdrop of night. Inside, it was cozy and inviting, wooden beams framed walls adorned with local art that told stories of our community. I ordered a drink and settled into a corner booth, hoping to find solace in anonymity among strangers. But instead, my thoughts drifted back to Harold, the way he made me feel seen again after so long in shadows cast by my own life choices. Suddenly, I heard his voice, a low murmur that sent shivers down my spine. He entered through the door unexpectedly, scanning the room until his eyes landed on mine. A rush of emotions surged through me, surprise, desire, guilt, all tangled together like vines choking out light. "Mind if I join you?" Harold asked lightly as he approached my table. "Of course," I replied, trying to mask how his presence electrified me. As he slid into the booth across from me, our eyes locked for what felt like an eternity before either spoke again. We exchanged pleasantries about our days and laughed lightly at shared memories from family gatherings, moments that now felt tinged with something more profound than mere nostalgia. "It's strange being here without everyone else," he said softly after a while, his gaze drifting around the bar before settling back on me. "Yes," I agreed quietly. "It feels different tonight." The tension between us thickened as unspoken words hung in the air like heavy clouds before a storm. With every laugh we shared and every glance exchanged, it became harder to ignore what simmered just beneath our friendly banter, an attraction neither dared to name aloud. "Do you ever think about how things have changed?" Harold asked suddenly, leaning forward slightly as if sharing a secret meant only for me. I hesitated before responding. Honesty felt both liberating and terrifying all at once. Sometimes, I admitted slowly. It's hard not to when everything feels so stagnant. He nodded knowingly. There was an understanding between us that transcended words, a connection forged through years spent navigating family dynamics together. Just then, an unexpected gathering unfolded around us as friends greeted one another across tables filled with laughter and cheer. It created an atmosphere charged with possibility, and vulnerability lingered just beneath its surface. "I don't want this night to end," Harold said quietly after taking a sip from his drink, a hint of longing laced within his tone that made my heart race anew. My breath caught in my throat as something shifted in our dynamic, the weight of unexpressed feelings pressing against us like an unseen force drawing us closer together until it became unbearable to resist any longer. In one swift motion fueled by impulse rather than reason or caution, I leaned across the table toward him. Our lips met briefly but intensely, an electric spark igniting between us before reality crashed back and around us like waves against rocky shores. We kissed. The admission hung heavily between us afterward, a confession laden with both excitement and dread as we pulled away slightly yet remained tethered by an invisible thread woven from shared experiences and newfound desires. "What does this mean for us?" Harold asked softly after what felt like an eternity spent grappling with uncertainty swirling around us both, the question lingering unanswered as we navigated uncharted waters fraught with complications ahead. "I don't know," I whispered honestly. Fear gripped me tightly even while exhilaration coursed through every vein, each heartbeat echoing louder than before inside this fragile moment suspended between right and wrong. We left soon after. Parting ways outside felt surreal under twinkling stars above, each step away from him weighed down by implications yet untold lurking just beyond reach waiting patiently for decisions yet made amidst swirling currents pulling at both hearts entwined within them ever deeper still. Returning home later that night proved more daunting than anticipated. The silence enveloping me felt thicker than fog rolling over fields at dawn, hiding truths buried beneath layers built up over years spent trying desperately not to confront them head-on any more than necessary. The realization washed over me, crossing boundaries, blurred lines irrevocably drawn long ago. What once seemed impossible now stood within grasp. A tantalizing glimpse into something different altogether, beckoning enticingly forth despite consequences looming large just beyond horizon, waiting patiently still. The next morning, the weight of last night's encounter lingered like a shadow in the corners of my mind. I stared out the kitchen window, watching the sun rise over Kansas City, casting a warm glow on the familiar streets. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, but it did little to lift the heaviness in my heart. I had crossed a line that was never meant to be crossed. The day unfolded with an unsettling blend of routine and turmoil. My husband, Tom, was busy preparing for a work trip that would take him away for several days. He hummed softly to himself, oblivious to the storm brewing within me. As he packed his suitcase, I busied myself with mundane tasks, folding laundry, cleaning surfaces, anything to keep my mind from drifting back to those moments with my father-in-law. "Are you sure you don't want to come with me?" Tom asked casually as he zipped up his bag. "No, I've got things here," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "Besides, you know how much I hate flying." He nodded, accepting my excuse without question. The truth was far more complicated than a fear of flying. It was about what awaited me in our home once he left. After Tom departed, silence enveloped the house like a thick blanket. The stillness felt oppressive as I wandered from room to room, each space echoing memories of family gatherings and laughter now tinged with an undercurrent of guilt and confusion. My thoughts drifted back to our shared moment. Our lips met in a fleeting embrace that ignited something deep within me. That evening, I found myself preparing dinner alone in the kitchen when a knock at the door startled me from my reverie. It was Henry, my father-in-law, standing there with an air of uncertainty that mirrored my own emotions. "Hi," he said softly, hesitating before stepping inside as if he feared crossing an invisible boundary. "Hi," I responded, trying to mask my surprise with casualness. "What brings you here?" "I thought maybe we could talk," he said quietly, his gaze searching mine for answers we both knew were tangled in complexities beyond simple words. As we settled into the living room, tension crackled between us like static electricity. The familiar surroundings felt charged with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. He glanced around as if taking stock of our shared history. The framed family photos lining the walls captured moments of joy now overshadowed by our current predicament. "I've been thinking about what happened," Henry began cautiously. "Me too," I admitted, feeling vulnerable yet strangely relieved to share this burden with him. His eyes met mine with an intensity that made my heart race. "I never intended for things to go this far." "No one ever does," I replied softly, grappling with the swirling emotions inside me. Guilt gnawed at my insides like a persistent ache. How had we let this happen? We sat in silence for what felt like hours before either of us spoke again. The weight of our choices hung heavily between us, a palpable reminder of what lay ahead if we continued down this path. I don't know what it all means," he finally confessed. "Neither do I whispered back, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes as vulnerability washed over me once more. Henry reached out tentatively and took my hand in his, a simple gesture laden with meaning that sent shockwaves through me. The warmth of his touch ignited memories buried deep within, a time when life felt simpler and love wasn't so complicated. "We can figure this out together," he said earnestly. At that moment, something shifted between us. The air grew thick with unspoken promises and desires long suppressed by duty and expectation. Our connection transcended mere attraction. It was rooted in understanding and shared experiences forged over years spent navigating family dynamics. As if drawn by an invisible force, we leaned closer until there was no distance left between us. Our lips met again, not just out of longing but also out of desperation for connection amidst chaos swirling around us both. The kiss deepened as if it could erase all doubts lingering on the edges of our minds. However fleeting it may have been, it solidified something unbreakable within me, a desire for solace amid tumultuous tides threatening to pull us under altogether. "What are we doing?" I breathed against his lips when we finally pulled apart. "I don't know," Henry admitted breathlessly, his expression mirroring my own confusion and yearning intertwined beautifully yet painfully together like threads woven into fabric too delicate to withstand too much wear or tear without unraveling entirely. We sat there quietly for several moments before reality began creeping back in. The implications of our actions weighed heavily on both our hearts now entwined even further than before despite knowing full well they might lead us down paths neither had anticipated nor desired ultimately. What would this mean for our families? For Tom? For everything we'd built over years spent navigating life side by side? The questions hung heavy between us like storm clouds ready to burst forth at any moment, the weight pressing down relentlessly until finally breaking free into torrential rains washing away clarity while leaving behind only uncertainty remaining firmly intact. As darkness fell outside enveloping Kansas City beneath its shroud like secrets hidden away from prying eyes waiting patiently still, I couldn't shake off feeling torn between two worlds, the comfort found within family ties versus longing for something deeper yet fraught with consequences looming large just beyond horizon waiting patiently still. I stood up abruptly breaking free from Henry's grasp needing space needing time needing anything other than lingering tension filling every corner around us threatening suffocation altogether if left unchecked any longer. "I should go." My voice broke slightly betraying emotions swirling beneath surface desperately seeking expression while simultaneously wishing silence would reclaim its hold once more allowing respite from turmoil raging inside instead. "Wait." His voice cut through darkness surrounding us drawing me back toward him once more despite every instinct urging retreat instead. "What is it?" "I don't want this to end." The sincerity behind those words struck chords deep within, resonating louder than doubts whispering insistently, trying to drown them out completely instead. Neither one knew how things would unfold moving forward, nor whether consequences might ultimately prove unbearable, but somehow amidst chaos lurking just beneath surface lay hope, flickering ever so faintly, waiting patiently still. The night stretched on, thick with unspoken words and an undeniable tension that hung between us like a heavy curtain. The house, usually filled with the familiar sounds of my husband's laughter and the clinking of dishes during dinner, felt eerily quiet. With him away for work, the absence left a void that was filled only by the electric charge of my father-in-law's presence. We sat in the living room, the dim light casting shadows that danced on the walls. I could hear the ticking of the clock, each second stretching into a reminder of our precarious situation. I glanced at him, his eyes reflecting a mix of concern and something deeper, an understanding that seemed to transcend our roles within this family. "Are you sure this is what you want?" he asked softly, breaking the silence. His voice was steady yet filled with an undertone of vulnerability that made my heart race. "I don't know," I admitted, shifting uncomfortably in my seat. "Everything feels so complicated." He leaned closer, his gaze unwavering. "Complicated doesn't mean it's wrong. Sometimes it's just necessary." A part of me wanted to pull back, to retreat into the safety of my ordinary life, the predictable rhythms of marriage and family dinners. But another part craved this connection, this understanding that had blossomed between us in such an unexpected way. As the evening wore on, we talked about everything and nothing, memories from family gatherings, shared moments that felt both distant and achingly close. Each laugh we exchanged brought us closer to a precipice neither of us wanted to acknowledge fully. Then there was a moment, a fleeting touch as he reached for my hand during a particularly poignant story about his late wife. It was innocent enough on its surface but sent ripples through me. The warmth of his skin against mine ignited something deep within. I hesitated before pulling away, but he didn't let go. Instead, he held my gaze as if searching for permission in my eyes. "What if we just let ourselves feel?" he suggested gently. And before I could respond, before reason could seep back into the cracks of my resolve, we spent the night together, lost in conversation and connection that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Morning light filtered through the curtains when I woke up alone on the couch where we had talked for hours. The remnants of last night lingered like a sweet perfume, intoxicating yet suffocating at once. I sat up slowly, trying to piece together how I felt about everything that had transpired. The weight of what we had done settled heavily on my shoulders as reality crashed back and around me like a tidal wave. This wasn't just an escape, it was a choice with consequences that would ripple through our lives. I glanced around the room, everything looked unchanged yet somehow different, a stark reminder of how fragile our lives were beneath their seemingly stable surfaces. My phone buzzed from across the room, a message from my husband asking how things were at home, followed by an innocent inquiry about dinner plans for when he returned. My stomach twisted at his words, guilt washed over me like cold water hitting hot skin. How could I face him knowing what I had done? How could I pretend everything was normal when inside I felt like a stranger in my own life? Later that day, while preparing dinner, a routine meant to bring comfort, I couldn't shake off the feeling of impending doom lurking behind every corner. The aroma from spices mixed with barbecue sauce wafted through our small kitchen as memories flooded back, family dinners filled with laughter and stories shared over plates piled high with food. Yet now each sound felt amplified, the sizzling pan echoed like thunder against my conscience as it reminded me how far removed I'd become from who I used to be, who he thought I still was. As dusk settled in Kansas City and streetlights flickered on one by one outside our window, anticipation built within me like pressure building before a storm. What would happen when he returned? Would he sense anything amiss? Would this secret hang between us like an uninvited guest at our dinner table? The door creaked open just as I set down 2 plates laden with food, His familiar form stepped inside carrying traces of exhaustion etched across his face from long hours spent working away from home. "Hey there," he greeted cheerfully despite weariness clinging to him like an old coat. "Hi," I managed to reply while forcing a smile onto my lips even though inside turmoil raged fiercely against every facade trying desperately to hold itself together. We exchanged small talk about his day as we settled down at our table illuminated by soft candlelight, its glow illuminating not only our faces but also highlighting cracks forming beneath carefully constructed layers built over years spent together navigating life's ups and downs side by side. But tonight felt different, tension crackled between us with every bite taken. The silence lingering longer than usual after questions asked about work or plans for tomorrow hung unanswered in midair waiting desperately for release yet never arriving fully into view. Then came the moment that shattered any semblance of normalcy left standing upright amidst chaos swirling all around us. "I'm thinking about taking a trip next month." His words fell flat against me like stones thrown into still water sending ripples outward threatening everything surrounding them. The very foundation upon which we stood began trembling beneath weighty implications left unspoken hovering above us both casting shadows long enough they threatened engulfing all light remaining. "What kind of trip?" My voice barely broke through thick air suffocating any hope left lingering within reach grasping desperately at straws trying holding on to something solid amidst uncertainty looming overhead. "A business conference," he replied casually unaware how those simple words struck chords deep inside resonating louder than doubts whispering insistently trying drown them out completely instead. My mind raced ahead envisioning scenarios unfolding before me, weekends alone spent sharing stolen moments filled laughter while hiding secrets tucked safely away behind closed doors. Or perhaps facing reality head-on confronting choices made leading down paths unknown fraught dangers lurking just beyond sight waiting patiently until time came forcing confrontations inevitable regardless feelings or intentions held tightly close. Suddenly there was no escaping truth anymore. It hovered above us both casting shadows long enough they threatened engulfing all light remaining. What had started as simple attraction now morphed into something far more complex than either one could have anticipated leading straight toward crossroads demanding decisions made soon lest consequences unravel tightly woven fabric holding lives together tightly, bound until now. And therein lay dilemma confronting me directly, continue pursuing connection found despite potential fallout looming large overhead. Or retreat back into safety cocoon crafted carefully over years spent building lives intertwined seeking solace amidst chaos swirling all around threatening consume everything once considered secure forevermore. The family dinner had been awkward from the start. I could sense it in the air, heavy and thick like the humidity that clung to Kansas City in late summer. My husband, oblivious to the tension brewing beneath the surface, chatted animatedly about his upcoming business trip, his voice a stark contrast to the silence that enveloped me. I forced a smile, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy while my mind raced with thoughts of my father-in-law. As he entered the room, a wave of mixed emotions washed over me. His presence felt both comforting and dangerous, a reminder of everything I was trying to navigate. The way he looked at me, those lingering glances, sent shivers down my spine. I wondered if my husband noticed how our interactions had shifted since that fateful day at the festival. Did he sense the unspoken connection that crackled between us? "Did you hear about the barbecue festival this weekend?" my husband asked, oblivious to the charged atmosphere. "I thought we could all go as a family." "Sounds great," I replied automatically, forcing enthusiasm into my voice. Inside, however, I felt a knot tightening in my stomach. The idea of being surrounded by people while grappling with my secret was daunting. My father-in-law nodded, his eyes flickering toward me before returning to my husband. "I'd love to join you all," he said casually, but there was an intensity behind his words that made my heart race. As dinner progressed, I found myself stealing glances at him when I thought no one was watching. The way he laughed at our son's antics made something inside me ache, an ache for connection and understanding that had long been missing in my marriage. Each bite of food felt heavy as if I were swallowing lead instead of meatloaf. The conversation shifted back to mundane topics as our son talked about school projects and friends. Yet beneath those innocent words lay an undercurrent of tension that threatened to spill over at any moment. Then came the moment that sent shockwaves through me. "I'll be gone for a week," my husband announced casually between bites, heading out on Monday. A silence fell over the table as those words hung in the air like an unwelcome guest. My heart raced. Suddenly, everything felt too real, the weight of secrets pressing down on me like a suffocating blanket. "I'll miss you," I managed to say, even though part of me reveled in the prospect of having more time alone with my father-in-law. "Don't worry," he said with a reassuring smile directed toward our son. "We'll make it fun while Dad's away." But his gaze lingered on me longer than necessary, making it clear that we both understood what this absence meant for us. After dinner wrapped up with obligatory small talk about weekend plans and chores left undone around the house, we all retreated into separate corners of our lives within those four walls, a familiar routine now tinged with unspoken truths. I found myself alone in the living room later that evening while my husband retreated to his office for work-related tasks. The quietness enveloped me like a thick fog as thoughts swirled chaotically within my mind. Then came a knock on the door, a soft yet deliberate sound that sent butterflies fluttering wildly in my stomach. My father-in-law stood there when I opened it, his expression mirrored mine, an equal mix of apprehension and desire. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly, stepping inside without waiting for an answer. "What if someone sees?" My voice trembled slightly despite trying to sound composed. He closed the door behind him and leaned against it as if blocking out any possibility of interruption from outside forces threatening our fragile connection built upon whispered confessions and shared vulnerabilities. "We need to figure this out," he said softly but firmly, eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made everything else fade away. The house around us dimmed into mere background noise against this electric charge pulsing between us. "I don't know what this is anymore," I admitted finally after what felt like an eternity spent searching for words capable of encapsulating this turmoil inside me, a turmoil born from longing yet tinged with guilt. He stepped closer until only inches separated us, heat radiated off him like summer sun warming pavement beneath bare feet, a warmth inviting yet perilous given circumstances surrounding us both now tangled together like vines creeping up an old fence post weathered by time itself. "Neither do I," he confessed quietly but resolutely. There was clarity amidst chaos reflected within those deep-set eyes filled with emotions unfiltered by societal norms or expectations placed upon us by family ties binding us together through bloodlines woven intricately throughout generations past, all standing outside this moment unaware just how close we stood teetering at edge precipice leading toward unknown futures awaiting beyond graspable horizons filled only darkness looming ahead. Threatening engulf everything once familiar forevermore. The gravity pulling us together felt undeniable even as logic screamed against it. A battle fought silently within each heartbeat echoing against walls closing in around us pressing down fiercely until breath became labored under weight carried far too long without release sought desperately through human connection lost somewhere along way traveled through life's winding paths taken without thought given consequences lurking just beyond sight waiting patiently until moments arrived ripe enough. Bare fruit bittersweet taste leaving lingering aftertaste haunting memories formed from choices made hesitantly yet fervently nonetheless. And then it happened, the moment where boundaries blurred into nothingness. "We can't keep pretending," I murmured finally breaking silence hanging thick between us like fog refusing lift even under brightest sun shining down illuminating shadows cast by secrets held tightly locked away deep inside hearts yearning desperately find solace amidst chaos swirling ever closer threatening consume everything once considered secure forevermore. But before either could respond fully or retreat back into safety cocoon crafted carefully over years spent building lives intertwined seeking solace amidst chaos swirling all around threatening consume everything once considered secure forevermore. An unexpected noise shattered delicate balance we'd created. Footsteps echoed down hallway, approaching rapidly, sending adrenaline surging through veins, coursing wildly, prompting instinctive reaction take hold, pushing urgency forward, demanding decisions made soon, lest consequences unravel, tightly woven fabric holding lives together, tightly bound until now. The footsteps continued to approach, each sound echoing in the quiet house like a warning bell. My heart raced as I exchanged a glance with him, a silent agreement hanging in the air. The thrill of our secret felt intoxicating, but the weight of potential discovery loomed large. I could almost hear the ticking clock of our lives together, its rhythm quickening with each step that grew nearer. "Do you think he suspects?" I whispered, my voice barely more than a breath. The question hung between us, heavy with unspoken fears. "I don't know," he replied, his brow furrowed in concern. "But we need to be careful." I nodded, knowing that every moment we spent together was a gamble. The thrill of our connection had blinded me to the risks at first. Now, as reality began to seep in, I felt the sharp edges of my choices pressing against my conscience. The door swung open abruptly, and there stood my husband, his expression curious yet cautious. "What are you two doing here?" he asked, glancing between us with an eyebrow raised. "Just talking," I managed to say, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask than genuine cheerfulness. "I was just telling him about that barbecue place downtown." "Ah," he replied slowly, his gaze lingering on my father-in-law for just a moment too long before returning to me. "You should take him there sometime." The suggestion felt loaded with implications I wasn't ready to confront. My father-in-law nodded in agreement but said nothing further. The silence stretched uncomfortably between us. "Dinner will be ready soon," my husband announced before retreating back down the hallway. The moment he was gone, tension filled the space where laughter and lightness had once reigned. "I can't keep doing this," I admitted quietly as soon as we were alone again. He stepped closer, concern etched on his face. "What do you mean?" "This, whatever this is, it's not just fun anymore." My voice wavered slightly as I spoke the truth I had been avoiding for too long. "It's becoming complicated." He looked away for a moment as if searching for words that might bridge our growing divide. "I understand," he finally said softly. "But what do we do about it?" A wave of uncertainty washed over me. I had no answers to offer him or myself. The thrill of our connection had morphed into something heavier and more burdensome than I had anticipated. "I don't know," I confessed, feeling vulnerable under his gaze. "What if we just take it day by day?" he suggested cautiously. I considered this for a moment. It seemed both sensible and utterly reckless at once. Yet there was an undeniable pull drawing me toward him, an emotional bond that had formed amidst all the chaos surrounding us. As dinner approached, my mind raced with thoughts of consequences and choices yet made. My husband returned to call us to the table just as I was beginning to feel settled in my thoughts about what lay ahead. Dinner unfolded in familiar patterns, polite conversation punctuated by laughter and shared stories from days gone by, a delicate dance of normalcy layered over an undercurrent of tension that threatened to spill out at any moment. "Have you thought any more about your trip next month?" my husband asked casually while passing around roasted vegetables. I froze mid-bite at his question. The trip was meant for just him, a chance for him to escape work pressures while leaving me behind in Kansas City with time on my hands and secrets weighing on my heart. "I haven't given it much thought," I replied carefully, trying to mask any hint of anxiety in my voice. My father-in-law glanced at me knowingly before returning his attention back to his plate. An unspoken understanding passed between us that felt both comforting and alarming all at once. Later that evening, after dinner was cleared away and dishes washed up in silence, we found ourselves alone again. My father-in-law leaning against the kitchen counter while I stood near the sink, lost deep within swirling thoughts threatening clarity amid confusion surrounding everything happening around us. "I'm worried about your husband," He finally spoke up, gently breaking through silence enveloping us both like thick fog, hiding deeper truths lurking beneath surface-level interactions occurring daily within these walls built upon years shared together as family, yet now feeling strained beyond recognition due solely because choices made out of desperation rather than love itself seemed destined lead nowhere good ultimately. I am too, I admitted reluctantly, unable shake off feeling guilt gnawing away heart even when surrounded, warmth emanating from connection forged unexpectedly through vulnerability shared amidst chaos swirling around us, all threatening consume everything once considered secure forevermore. His eyes searched mine intently. There was something raw there, a desire perhaps? But also worry flickering beneath surface layer masking deeper emotions waiting patiently until right moment arrives when truth must be revealed regardless consequences looming large ahead. What if? He began hesitantly before trailing off, unsure how best articulate thoughts gathering momentum inside head racing forward faster than words could catch up, leaving behind fragments only half-formed, attempting find coherence amidst turmoil spiraling out control. Before he could finish speaking though, footsteps echoed down hallway again. This time louder, sharper, demanding attention, fully drawn away from intimate conversation unfolding moments prior, leaving behind only remnants, echoes fading quickly into distance, replaced instead by reality crashing back down hard, reminding both need tread carefully lest paths diverge irrevocably forevermore. The silence in the house felt heavy, almost suffocating. My father-in-law lingered in the space between us, a tangible presence that stirred both comfort and confusion. I could sense the weight of our shared secret, an unspoken bond that had grown from fleeting glances to whispered confessions. Yet, with every moment we spent together, the reality of my life outside these walls loomed larger. I glanced at the clock on the wall. It ticked steadily, each second reminding me of the time slipping away. My husband was supposed to be gone for a few days, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that his return might come sooner than expected. The thought made my heart race, not from excitement but from fear. What would happen if he walked through that door while we were still tangled in this web of emotions? Do you think we're being foolish? I asked him one evening, our voices low as if they could somehow mask the gravity of our situation. He looked at me with those familiar eyes that had seen so much yet were now clouded with uncertainty. Foolishness is subjective, he replied softly. What matters is how we feel. His words hung in the air like a promise and a threat all at once. I wanted to believe there was something genuine between us, a connection forged in shared loneliness, but guilt gnawed at me relentlessly. I thought of my husband, his unwavering support and love. How could I betray him like this? Days passed in a blur of stolen moments and anxious thoughts. Family dinners became increasingly strained, laughter felt forced and hollow as we navigated around unspoken truths. The barbecue joint down by River Market had always been our go-to place for casual family outings, but now it felt like a stage where we performed our roles without conviction. One afternoon, while sorting through some old letters in my husband's study, something I rarely did, I stumbled upon a letter addressed to him from his father. My heart raced as I read it. It contained words of encouragement and pride but also hints of vulnerability that struck me deeply. It spoke of dreams unfulfilled and moments lost to time. As I finished reading, I found myself questioning everything about my relationship with him. Did he truly see me as someone special or merely as his son's wife? The letter revealed layers of complexity that made my heart ache for both men in my life, the one who had always been there and the one who now filled a void I hadn't realized existed. Do you want to talk? He asked one evening when we found ourselves alone again. I hesitated but nodded slowly, feeling drawn into his gaze. I found something, I admitted cautiously. His expression shifted slightly, concern flickered across his face like a shadow passing over sunlight. What did you find? I held up the letter, watching as he took it from my hands with an almost reverent touch. As he read through it, tension crackled between us, an invisible thread binding us closer yet threatening to snap at any moment. I never meant for you to see this, he said quietly after finishing. Why didn't you share this side of yourself before? The question slipped out before I could stop myself. He sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair as if trying to comb away his own thoughts. Sometimes it's easier to hide behind smiles and laughter than confront what lies beneath. His honesty resonated with me deeply. Perhaps we were both hiding from our realities in different ways, me from my marriage and him from his own feelings about family dynamics. Just then, footsteps echoed down the hallway again, this time unmistakably belonging to my husband returning home earlier than expected. Panic surged within me as I exchanged worried glances with my father-in-law. Quick! Hide! I whispered urgently. He moved swiftly toward the adjacent room while I scrambled to gather myself back into some semblance of normalcy before my husband entered the house completely unaware of what had just transpired. As soon as my husband stepped through the door, he greeted me with a warm smile that felt like daggers piercing straight through my conscience. How was your day? He asked casually while unloading his bag onto the kitchen counter. It was fine, I replied too quickly, my voice betraying me even as I fought against revealing anything more than surface-level truths. We chatted about mundane things, dinner plans and upcoming family events while all along feeling an undercurrent pulsing beneath our conversation. A current charged with secrets waiting impatiently just below the surface ready to rise up at any moment if not carefully contained within fragile boundaries built over years spent together navigating life's complexities side by side. After dinner, we settled onto the couch for what had become our nightly routine, watching television together while sharing popcorn. A ritual steeped in familiarity yet tinged now with an undeniable tension that seemed to hang thickly around us like fog enveloping everything else outside view, blocking clarity, obscuring understanding between us, all too easily lost amidst distractions, vying for attention, pulling focus away from deeper issues lurking beneath calm facades painted on so carefully. Over time, as night wore on, though fatigue began creeping into play, challenging resolve, forcing decisions against procrastination, threatening consequences looming larger than ever before, demanding acknowledgement even amidst comfort sought within familiar routines established over years spent building lives together, intertwined intimately yet dangerously fragile, held together by threads fraying slowly inch by inch, revealing cracks previously hidden beneath polished surfaces, reflecting ideals upheld steadfastly throughout years past. Just before bed, my husband turned toward me unexpectedly, catching me off guard, entirely breaking silence hanging heavily around us, asking point blank, "Is everything okay?" A part of me wanted desperately to scream out, all truths swirling inside, begging for release, seeking understanding amidst chaos brewing just beneath surface, longing connection deeper than mere appearances maintained over years spent together building lives intertwined. But instead all that escaped lips was simple reassurance offered softly, "Of course." But lying there next morning wrapped tightly within sheets, feeling warmth radiating beside body, brought forth conflicting emotions battling fiercely within. Longing still present despite attempts made, pushing back against desires ignited, unexpectedly igniting flames flickering dangerously close, threatening engulf everything surrounding, leaving nothing untouched, scorched earth behind. Days turned into weeks filled with uncertainty, clouding judgment, overshadowing clarity, sought after, desperately searching answers buried deep within tangled web spun delicately yet precariously woven around hearts entwined, seeking solace found only fleeting. Moments stolen away amidst chaos swirling endlessly around them, threatening unravel everything built upon foundations shaky, frail, needing support, desperately yearning stability, grounding them back down, firmly rooted, securely planted, firmly earth beneath feet. And then came another unexpected turn when news broke out about family crisis unfolding rapidly, demanding attention, pulling everyone closer together, forcing confrontation long avoided, bringing hidden truths bubbling forth, threatening expose vulnerabilities laid bare, leaving no stone unturned, no secret safe anymore. The weight became unbearable, pressing down hard, suffocating every breath taken, feeling trapped, caught up midst whirlwind, spinning wildly out control, spiraling downward fast, losing grip, reality slipping away faster than could comprehend, leaving only aftermath. devastation behind shattered illusions, crumbling dreams once held dear now scattered across floorboards, memories fading, echoes haunting every corner, reminding constantly choices made led here, culminating moment where clarity finally emerged. Confronting truth head-on, risking everything, left standing vulnerable, exposed, raw, stripped bare, open wide, inviting judgment, scrutiny alike. And so began journey toward resolution, faced ultimately choices looming large ahead, beckoning forth courage needed, embrace authenticity, reclaim power lost along way, rediscover strength long forgotten, buried deep underneath layers constructed protectively, shielding heart against pain, suffering endured far too long. The weight of secrets pressed down heavily as I stood in the kitchen, the familiar hum of the refrigerator a stark contrast to the chaos swirling in my mind. My husband had left for the weekend, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the lingering presence of his father, who had just departed after an unexpected visit. The air felt thick with unspoken words and unresolved feelings, a tension that seemed to wrap around me like a suffocating blanket. I glanced out the window at the Kansas City skyline, its silhouette sharp against the fading light. The barbecue joint down the street would be buzzing with laughter and warmth, but here I was, trapped in a silence that felt almost deafening. The aroma of grilled meat wafted through my memories, reminding me of moments spent with family and friends, moments that now felt tainted by my choices. The letter I had discovered earlier lay on the table, its contents echoing in my mind. It spoke of longing and regret, words that resonated deeply within me. What did it mean for us? For him? For me? Each line seemed to unravel yet another layer of complexity in our tangled lives. I knew it was time to confront my feelings, but fear held me back. What if this path led to destruction rather than liberation? As I stood there lost in thought, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. My heart raced as I walked towards the door, uncertainty gnawing at me. Opening it revealed my father-in-law standing there, his expression unreadable yet filled with something unspoken. "Can we talk?" he asked softly. "Now?" The question slipped from my lips before I could stop myself. "Please." His voice carried a weight that demanded attention. I stepped aside to let him in, closing the door behind us as if sealing away the outside world. The tension between us crackled in the air like static electricity. We moved to the living room where shadows danced across familiar furniture, a space once filled with laughter now felt heavy with secrets. "I've been thinking about everything," he began, his gaze steady yet vulnerable. "About us." A knot tightened in my stomach as I braced myself for what was to come. "What do you mean?" "I can't pretend this doesn't matter anymore." His voice trembled slightly as he continued. "We've crossed lines that shouldn't have been crossed." I nodded slowly, struggling to find words amidst a whirlwind of emotions. "I know," I finally managed to say. "We kissed," he admitted quietly, his eyes searching mine for understanding. A moment passed where time seemed to stretch infinitely between us, memories flooding back uninvited, shared glances at family gatherings, whispered conversations late into the night when vulnerability hung heavy in the air like fog on a cold morning. "I'm scared," I confessed suddenly, feeling raw and exposed under his gaze. "Scared of losing everything." He took a step closer, our proximity felt electric yet dangerous. "We both are," he replied softly. The truth hung heavily between us like an unbreakable bond forged from shared pain and longing, a connection neither of us could fully comprehend nor ignore. Yet despite this understanding lingered an undeniable fear. What would happen if we pursued this path further? "Your son," my voice faltered as guilt washed over me anew. "He deserves honesty," he said firmly but gently. "From both of us." In that moment something shifted, the air crackling with potential yet fraught with danger. A choice lay before me. Embrace this connection or retreat into silence and safety once more. "I don't know if I can do this," I whispered finally. His expression softened but remained resolute, He reached out tentatively as if afraid to touch something fragile yet vital between us, this connection we had forged amidst chaos and confusion. Then came a knock at the door again, a sharp interruption that shattered our momentary intimacy into fragments scattered across reality's harsh floorboards. "Who is it?" I asked nervously as we both turned toward the sound. "I don't know." He looked equally apprehensive. Uncertainty clouded his features like storm clouds gathering on an otherwise clear day. Cautiously moving toward the door again, dread filled every step as anticipation built within me like pressure before an explosion, a moment pregnant with possibilities yet fraught with consequences looming large overhead waiting patiently for their turn to unfold. Opening it revealed not just any visitor but someone entirely unexpected, my husband standing there looking weary but determined. Shadows under his eyes spoke volumes about sleepless nights spent wrestling demons unseen by anyone else around him. "What's going on here?" His voice sliced through thick tension hanging heavy between us like fog enveloping city streets late at night, threatening clarity hidden beneath layers obscured by fear. The very foundation upon which our lives rested trembled precariously beneath our feet. Choices made echoed loudly within confined walls threatening everything we held dear, all while silence loomed ominously overhead casting shadows deeper than any daylight could penetrate. In that moment everything hung suspended, time itself pausing long enough for realization dawned upon me. There would be no easy way out from here. Whatever path lay ahead promised consequences far beyond anything imagined thus far.